Hello, my name is Arlene Herson, and I am here at the studio of Lynn University on behalf of the Boca Raton Historical Society and Museum. The Historical Society and Museum was founded in 1972 and is a nonprofit membership organization dedicated to preserving the past and to enrich the future. The Historical Society is building a legacy in our community by collecting and sharing our local history. The current project is documenting the Jewish history of Boca Raton. And my guest today is Ida Herst, who is the first woman president of Temple Bethel. She recently turned 100 years old. She is an amazing woman, and we welcome here today. So welcome, Ida Herst.
Thank you.
I think you are such an amazing woman. We mentioned, and you are sharing with the world, that you are 100 years old. So before we go any further, okay, give us some tips. You're smart, you're vital, you're fit. Give us some tips about how we can all live to be 100 and be like you.
Well, all I can say is that I've worked at intelligent things all my life,
Well, you certainly...
from childhood on.
Okay, so give us a little background about what you mean by intelligent things.
Interested in all the people around you, in the world you're living in, reading all the time, all the newspapers, all the magazines, keeping up with the world as much as possible.
You know, that's so important because you are so aware today, so smart. I say you're 100 years young, not 100 years old, and you're such a good role model. So where are you from originally?
Well, as I said, I've lived a long time, and I've seen the world change and change again and again. Not always for the better, but the changes are what civilizations are really all about.
Yeah, oh, a lot of changes in the world today. You've been here 100 years, but let's start at the beginning. Where are you from?
I was born in New York City, where the Flower Fifth Avenue Hospital is now. It was an empty lot. And my younger brother used to play baseball there. But I like to say that because it's now a big, important hospital. And I was born on 108th Street, right there on Fifth Avenue.
Right, good place to start life. Okay, but even then, when you taught, you were so ahead of your time. I mean, as you say, you were aware, you were interested in the world, you just never sat back and let the world flow over you, but you did something very courageous, too. You were, after graduating high school, you entered the Columbia University School of Pharmacy. Now, first of all,
College of Pharmacy.
The College of Pharmacy, okay, but in those days, we're talking about the 1930s, women weren't expected to go to college. They weren't expected to have major careers. So what were your ambitions? How did that come about?
It came about because my father was a very unusual man. He was very intelligent, very intellectual, and always said, I want my family to learn everything they possibly can and to go to school and learn, and I'll pay for everything.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of parents say that to their children, and somehow or other it doesn't connect. You know, you have to have that innate intelligence on your own.
I'm the oldest of the 4 children.
Right.
There were 3 girls and 1 boy. And I was, somehow I was very close to my father. And I knew he came from Russia in 1905. And he had no problem finding work because he was a pharmacist in Russia, and they accepted his work in the Mount Sinai Hospital, and that's why we lived on Fifth Avenue. It was not far.
You know, you were very lucky. You know, your father was lucky because so often people come from Russia or Poland or Germany or wherever they're from, and they cannot do what they were trained to do from where they came from. They come to New York and they have to take different jobs. So you were blessed in the beginning. So your father
Yes.
was a pharmacist. So what made you decide to be a pharmacist?
My father worked in the Mount Sinai Hospital making all the gallon goods. Those were the days when there weren't any proprietary medicines. The pharmacist made everything.
Okay, can I explain that a little bit? Because we go to the pharmacy now and we get a prescription, we get a pill, and it's done. So what you're saying is in those days, you didn't have pills. You had to mix the medicine yourself?
Yes, yes, and make the powders, headache powders, and fold the paper correctly. Yes,
Wow.
we made everything.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was made outside the drugstore.
That is
Very little. Even cosmetics were just coming in.
really?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, I keep
This is
forgetting.
1910, 1915. I was born in 1914.
Well, I keep forgetting you're 100 years old. We take this for granted, you know, the fact that that was so different.
Yes.
Okay, so now you're in
It was a different life.
right, but there were 12 men in your class and one woman. Not easy to get in and not easy to succeed. Obviously, you succeeded. So tell us now, you know, did you practice at as a pharmacist
I
after you
grew up
graduated?
in that drugstore. Of course, I couldn't fill prescriptions. My father had 4 pharmacists and finally had 5. One was Spanish speaking because
Ah,
in the 30s, the Spanish people were moving into the area and they didn't speak a lot of English.
even way back then in New York City. Okay, so let's talk about you and what happened. You're a pharmacist and you get married for the first time. You were very young. Tell us about Mr. Bush.
He was in a class 2 years ahead of me. I was in the 4-year college, the bachelor degree, not the pharmaceutical chemistry or pharmaceutical pharmacy. I took the BS degree because I had other ideas of what I was going to do. And at the same time, I loved working in my father's drugstore, helping out. I was 8 years old when he opened the drugstore, and I was there as much as they let me. And I enjoyed every bit of it. I think I admired my father greatly because he came to this country without knowing English, but quickly learned, worked at the drugstore in the Mount Sinai Hospital. They were so proud of him. He made the gallon goods for them and did it extremely well. And I heard all that. So my respect for my father increased tremendously.
Very lucky. But also you had respect for the first man that you married. His name was Mr. Bush, and he was a pharmacist as well.
Well, he was 2 years ahead of me. But we became very friendly, and he went to work at my father's drugstore when he graduated, and I came 2 years later. But we married when I graduated, and I got my degree, and I got my registration for being a licensed pharmacist. Then we married.
Right.
He got his, but he didn't have my 4-year education in pharmacy, and that always bothered him.
Oh?
Yes, but he was ahead of me, and I think he was 5 years older than I.
Right.
Than I
Well,
was.
you did get married. I know originally you had told me at one point you wanted to study medicine, but you stayed in pharmacy. You married
Yes.
young,
Right.
and unfortunately, at the age of 29, he died
He passed away.
of bone cancer. So here you're a young woman. You had 2 children, twins, I believe?
I had twins, a boy and a girl, who were very handsome, very bright, and I knew it. I could see that this was not going to be easy. It was going to be challenging.
Right.
But that's all right.
Okay, but so you were living in Manhattan. You're a widow. You have 2 children. Anybody can handle that. It's you. Now you met Herman Herst, your second husband, who you moved to Boca Raton with. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And you were married for a long time. So how did you meet him?
When my children got to be 6, 7 years old, I decided they had to learn something about being Jewish. They have to understand the religion and have to understand it. So I entered the Temple Bethel in Chappaqua, New York, where we lived. And they went to school there. That is Hebrew school. And as the years went by and they became youth group, I took on and I was still, it was about 8 years that I was still a widow. And at that point, I decided I would take over the job of following the youth group and influencing them in the right direction, which I did. And I met the other children. There were about 12 children in the youth group, boys and girls. And they all got along very well, and I could see they liked my attention and so forth. And one day, this is the story that came to me from Herman Herst. He said, I have to tell you how we met, because I was dating other ladies. My wife was already gone 3 years, and I was dating some other ladies in our knowledge. And and my daughter came home one day and said, well, did you like any of the ladies? He said, no, I didn't like a single one. She said, well, please, would you date Mrs. Bush? He said, for 10 cents, I'll do it. So she quickly ran and put a dime on his desk, and so he had to call me. We only knew each other in passing.
Right.
We never even spoke.
So his daughter's name is Wendy, and so Wendy had really good taste. She didn't like any of the other women.
Right.
So between you now...
And the minute we met and could have a conversation, it was he liked it. And so did I.
And I can understand why. So
he was intelligent and interesting and a good father, etc.
Now, when you say a good father, because between you had 4 children, 6 grandchildren. I think you have 14 now great-grandchildren.
Right.
13 of them were boys until recently. Now you have
only
a girl.
Recently, and now it's 3 years now.
Okay, so it's wonderful. You had a great life together. But Herman Herst was very well known because of his profession.
Yes.
He was a stamp collector. So explain to us.
And a stamp dealer.
And a stamp dealer. Okay.
He bought and sold stamps.
World renowned. He was world renowned.
Yes,
he was known all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know.
And highly intelligent, a very unusual person. Very unusual.
Well, he wrote, I understand, 18
18
books
on philately.
He collected million-dollar rare collections all over the world,
Right.
including letters from Holocaust survivors, from Jewish people. When people knew that he was collecting, they would come to him and he
Yes.
would buy all these incredible collections.
Yes.
So I understand when he passed away that you then donated his collection to, where did you donate it to?
Well, he had a number of collections, not just one stamp collection. He also collected letters that came to him from all over the world, and I mean all over the world, that were people that were in the Holocaust. And when he had, and he paid $5 for every letter that came. And when he had a large group from all over the world, from all of Europe and America, and so forth. And these were all letters, envelopes, stamped. They came from different parts of the world. And when he had about 420 of those, he donated it to the New York Holocaust Museum, which they had just started. I should say, into time, I married Herman Herst in 1957. So the part of the Holocaust was something that we understood, and to tell you how we felt about it is impossible. But it was the beginning of a real content for the museum.
Absolutely. But so those were letters.
Those were letters written by the people who lived through the Holocaust.
Right. Amazing to have those and to
Yes.
donate them. And
But he was the kind that collected pertinent material and always donated it where it would do the most good.
well, he was now I have trouble pronouncing the official name of a stamp collector, which what Herman Herst was.
Philatelist.
A philatelist. Okay, good. Well, world renowned, wonderful man. And we could do a whole show just based on him. But he is the person that brought you to Boca Raton. So why did you and your husband and your family move to Boca?
Now we're going all the way to 1972 and 3.
Right.
It was his idea because he had a great number of stamp collectors in Florida. And he decided he was going up in years, and we did a lot of traveling because his work would take him in many different places. And I enjoyed that very much. And when he started talk about living in Florida, I thought about it. I wasn't too crazy about it. I'm a New Yorker, accustomed to have everything intellectual, museums or theaters or what. But I knew he knew what he was doing. And when he decided that we would live and find something in Florida, I thought about it and I said, no, but this has to be his choice, no matter that I like New York. And so we looked and studied the situation, and he said, I think I like Palm Beach County. I don't want to live in Miami or Broward, or those are different. I'd like to live in Palm. I said, that sounds very good to me. And so we looked for a home, and it was going to be a house similar to what we had including a swimming pool.
Uh-huh.
And we found one in Boca Raton on Spanish River Road.
Okay, so I just want to bring up the fact of, so here you are, it's 1972, you moved to Boca Raton. Now, Boca Raton, years ago, and even still then, were not very friendly to Jewish people. Jewish people were known at some point in Boca Raton that they were not really welcome.
Yeah.
Early ads said, from Boca Raton, well, this is before the 70s, but it did say, you know, come see our beautiful beaches, come to our beautiful weather, buy a beautiful home. And then right next to that in an ad, in capital letters, would be restricted. So did you have any idea that that existed in your new hometown
At the
of
point
Boca?
that we were looking, we were interested in other things. We heard that after we arrived here, but we never sensed it, never. But we heard that there was restrictions on Jewish people. But Pat and I talked about it. His name was Pat because his birthday is March 17th, on Patrick's Day.
Oh, so Herman Herst was known as Pat.
Right. Herman Pat Herst.
Right. Oh, got it. Okay, but Ida, in those days, when you came, I mean, you had to be aware there were no, if you went to the supermarket, even to Passover, there was no matzah, there was no Jewish funeral home, there was really no Jewish community.
Well, now, my children were already studying Judaism. And we married, I have to explain that. We married the day they graduated high school and were going to college. So I knew it wouldn't be any problem, at least while they're in college, of coordinating things. Now, remind me of where you were headed so I can go to that direction.
No, we'll come back. But what I'm saying is that years ago,
yes,
and even when you were still here, there was an article that Herman, Pat, we'll call him now, gave to the Sun Sentinel and said that when they came, there was no place to get a bagel, the supermarkets there were no kosher foods, there was no kosher funeral home.
Well, we didn't learn that until after we moved here.
Yeah, but now you're here.
Yes.
And Herman's saying, hey, you know, I understand if they had a meeting, they had to send somebody to Broward County to get a bag of bagels for their morning meetings. So,
well, now we got to my husband knew a lot of people here. I really did not, and we met different people, and they said those things, but. We decided that why don't we, some of the others are thinking, why don't we open a temple here? Why don't we? There were 2 small storefronts of highly Orthodox synagogues that they weren't really interested in. And my husband said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I know we can't open unless we know that there are other Jewish people here. And he said, I belong to all these men's groups in Florida, and I will go and see from my experience whether there are enough Jews that we can start talking about a temple. And he did. He did from 1983 to 4, and he came back after he gave me a report on every one of the groups. I don't remember the names of the men's groups. And he said there were any number of Jewish families in all of them. I spoke to all of them. And I said, we're thinking about a synagogue that is a Reform synagogue, that is not as religious as some of the others. And they all thought that was they all had children. They wanted to educate them, but they didn't want them to worry about food and everything else. And we gave that report to this little group, and we decided that's what we would do. We would start.
Okay, I just want to backtrack a little bit because I was going to ask how you met Jewish people, and I know that your husband, belonged to all these groups, met Jewish people. I understand there was another man who was involved initially, would go into the phone book and find Jewish names and call them and get them involved. One man from your congregation, I understand, would stop people who looked Jewish in the supermarket and find out their names and involve them. So you mentioned 8083. It's earlier before that because Temple Bethel was built in 1977. So therefore,
I said 73.
No, you said 80. So I just want to make sure
that came
no
later
problem.
With something.
Exactly. So I just want our audience to know here that it definitely is in the 70s now. And you are
bought the house in 72 and moved in 73. We had to sell another house. So that's when we started getting interested in the area.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay, and finding, and to build a Jewish community. I mean, it was very small at that time. When you say many, it wasn't many. It was small, but you had many people who were interested.
Right.
Now, I also understand that the very first services, before you had a place to have services, were at Marymount College,
right,
which is now called Lynn University, and that's where all the services for the Jewish holidays and all the
That's where we started out at Marymount College, and they were wonderful to us, very cooperative, and we enjoyed meeting there very much.
Good, but then you really needed your own place.
But as we could see our crowd was coming gradually larger and larger. It was never more than 100. 110.
Right.
But that sounded like there were a lot more out there.
Okay, so in those days, so maybe you had 100 family, maybe. Today, I just want to mention, Temple Bethel is, if not the fastest growing, or of the Reform conservatives synagogues, temples in the entire country almost. And there are over 2,000 families now.
Right.
Okay, so back. So now you decide that we need a temple. We have families, we want a temple, we want a place to meet. How did it happen? Did you have any problems with the community building a temple in Boca Raton?
No.
Really?
Never had, and we had a sign out, even when it was being built. No. We never had that I'm aware of, a single incident that would have caused us to think twice about it.
Really? Because today, just to bring this situation today, the Chabad of East Boca is hoping to build in Boca Raton, and they have gotten threatening letters from people.
Well, you get new people here all the time.
Yeah.
New people coming. The people we met never. Well, we were looking for Jews and inviting Jews and meeting with them and so forth. That to us, that never happened. We never experienced. If Herman did, he never said.
Yeah.
But I never experienced any kind of hardship.
Yeah, you were very lucky. You've been lucky in many, many ways,
yes.
Herst. I do have to tell you. Okay, so now we have a big Jewish community. You can buy anything that you want here today. Times have changed.
Yes.
But let's go back to when you were starting. I mean, Temple Bethel is an amazing building. You were there from the very beginning. Your husband, who was very busy with his work, said to you, he was involved with this group of men who wanted to start a temple, and he said, Ida, you do it. That's your
That's
job.
Your job. I got mine.
So tell us. So you were doing your job.
Yes, that's what he said. I said, I'll be very happy to.
Well, happy to. Okay, but it wasn't an easy task.
Yes.
And finding the property, building
Well,
a
I
temple?
had a lot of interested people, very knowledgeable in everything they did. They were highly educated, very knowledgeable in all kinds of things that I had a little knowledge of.
Okay, but very important. Another important thing, knowledge and wanting to do it and all that. But money, where did the money come from?
Well, they all understood that if you build a building, you need money. We got it from our own people, from those who came and wanted to see it built. They donated and donated and donated. We had Marymount College we met, but land was half a gift.
Half a gift, and the
Yes.
rest you had to raise.
Right.
And who was the gift from?
The building we paid for ourselves.
Well, who donated the land for the synagogue?
I can't really tell you the name because
Okay.
my memory is not very good.
Okay,
And
whoever he
that's such an old story to me.
Okay, but whoever he is, we're blessed and we thank him
That's
very
when I
much.
hide behind
Okay.
100.
Okay, I got it. So now, Temple Bethel's built, beautiful building.
It took time.
I've been there
It
many
took
times.
time, and we
Took
were
time.
meeting.
Okay, you were meeting, but you became. I understand. In early years, there were
Well,
two presidents.
let me explain that. I have to explain that to
Okay.
you. All this now is going into 2 years, 3 years, 75. And I'm on every committee. And there were a number of committees because the people wanted to be part of it. And I was on the nominating committee to find a president and to have a board and so forth. And because I knew most of the people. Well, this time we had one man president, who was very nice, whom I knew. And then we got another one, but he didn't want to give it all that time. It was a big job. And we met, and during one meeting to pick a president, they could not agree. I was quiet. They couldn't agree. So they were going to make another committee and start all over again. And I said, don't put me on that committee because I've got a flaw. I've got a handicap. And they said, what are you talking about? What kind of handicap do you have? Oh, I have a very serious handicap. Well, what is it? I said, I'm a female. And then they understood what I was saying.
Right, yes, but however, you did become, for many years,
They
the
met
very.
again, and they offered me the job.
Okay, as the first woman president of Temple Bethel, and I must
there
say the most
weren't
dynamic.
very many women presidents in any synagogue at that point.
Right. And they chose the right person, you know. No one's going to let you down. So one of the things, I mean, you were president for a long time. You were such an important part of the Jewish community. You're legendary here. When I told people I'm interviewing Ida Herst, oh, yes, she knows all about it, and she was so influential. You were also influential in hiring Rabbi Singer, who came 2 years after the temple was built. As a matter of fact, we interviewed him for this project earlier. So what kind of influence did Rabbi Singer have on you and the community?
We had one rabbi whom we did not like. It didn't suit this congregation. And so we searched and searched, and we found one that we liked very much, and that was Rabbi Singer. And he and I hit it off very, very nicely. I could see he had an open mind, and his mind was a very good mind, not only in the Bible and the Torah and everything else, but in business and life here. And we all decided that this will be our rabbi. And it was a wonderful choice because everybody liked him. And this was groups of very intelligent people, business people who worked all over, all kinds of businesses. And all of us got along very well, and we kept promoting the temple, and it was growing all the time.
So Rabbi Singer was the spiritual leader for 27 years.
Yes.
As this community grew to over 2,000 families, now who knows, it's growing every day.
Yes.
But you were the president, and you also had some innovative ideas to bring people into the temple.
Yes.
Mixed people of all faiths. Come join us, come see what we do. So you started something called the Distinguished Artists Series.
Right.
Tell us.
I knew, now this is 1981, 2, 3. I knew this group would be interested in things that they can't get otherwise in Florida. And so we decided we would, and someone else said, how about having good singers and music? And we always had music for our services, always. We sang our service. And we decided, and we met, the committee met, and we knew we had to allocate a good amount of money. And I said, if we do it, I want only the best, only the ones that are famous for singing, for music, and all of that. If this temple has a music series, I wanted to be very proud of it. And they all agreed, and we did. And then we started the Distinguished Artist Series. And of course, we had a great many of the artists. And it ran, I think it was over 5 years.
Well, but people like Marvin Hamlish, Joel Gray, just to name a few. I mean, you
Yes.
had really big names.
Yes.
And people from all faiths came to Temple Bethel to be entertained, to meet people. As I mentioned earlier, all faiths, which
Yes.
was great. So you've seen so many changes in Temple Bethel, in the Jewish community, in the years that you've been here. So in general, what was, to see the growth, how do you feel about that? I mean, how did this, you're one of the very beginning people to start this Jewish community.
We had an excellent Hebrew school.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. We saw that the families coming, having children here, and having a little experience with that situation from up north. We developed a school. We got an excellent school principal and director of, we now call it the Maimonides Society. Nothing small.
Right.
And that encouraged more people to come. But there weren't hundreds that we have now. Our school has grown. We educate, and they love coming. The children do not feel, when you see them come, they're running to the building.
But it's not just the school. I actually went on the website for Temple Bethel. You have something for everybody. You have study groups, you have groups for the elderly, as you mentioned, the school. You have entertainment, and aside from the fact you have wonderful rabbi and cantor, I mean, people love coming to Temple Bethel.
Yes.
And now there's a mausoleum, which is, I think, the only synagogue in the country that has a mausoleum right on the grounds
Right.
of Temple Bethel.
Exactly.
So they say you can go from birth to grave and just be part of this community
Yes.
who has brought so much love and so much friendship to Boca Raton.
Oh, that developed gradually. Those of us who were interested in Temple Bethel as a group, we all lived through the Holocaust. We can't leave that out. We can't.
Right.
We have to realize that all we were doing was trying to make Jewish people have something that they can aspire to, that they can feel very comfortable with. Because they were, in America, they were highly educated business people. And we wanted to speak to that group. And we had a large group.
Well, and growing, as we mentioned, every day. So during the years, I mean, you've been in Boca Raton a long time. Now this is home, regardless of where the family was, where you were born. This is home. So with all that you've been involved in here, what has been your proudest moment for the Jewish community? What has been your proudest moment here in Boca Raton with all the years that you've been here and the accomplishments that you have achieved?
Well, I have to explain something. As time goes by, and these are middle-aged or older people who helped build this temple with their money and with their interest and their knowledge. And there were quite a lot of smart. Those who weren't, we shoved aside.
We won't say who they are.
But there were a large number of them. And they came from every state of the Union. They came from everywhere. Florida was the thing that was drawing them. And then when it became, and as years passed, and now I'm in the 1900s, in the 1980s, 90s. I was president in the 80s. There are men presidents after me. And we now have another lady president who is very, very good. But those of us, and many of us have passed away, a great many. And that's what started the
mausoleum.
Mausoleum. And we had land left that we weren't going to use because we did not build our school there. We built it out west where the children were. I'm talking now about the 1990s and 90s. Because now younger families have come into this with children, with many children, and our school has grown to thousands. And all this has developed over the years, gradually. And then, of those who were left, when we came to services on a Friday night, there were children, hundreds of children coming, and we felt that those of us who were in their 90s, that we loved it, we didn't want to break it up, but we need something a little different than that. So we developed, I wasn't part of that by that time. That wasn't my idea. I can't take credit for it. Many of the ideas were mine, but not this one. they started a senior circle. And we now have special services either in our other room or and we give the children the temple. So they have the big temple, we have other rooms where we can have a lot of things of our own interest.
Understandable. Okay, so there are the children, there are the older people, which you say the seniors.
Yes.
And then there's so much in between. Temple Bethel has so much to offer, and you were one of the very, very first founders, you and your husband, among several other people in the community that with this project we're going to get to know. So you must be very proud of the way it's grown.
I am very proud of Temple Bethel because it is what we thought about it. We developed, I canceled a lot of things that many people, like decorations in the temple or paintings or decorations. No, we like the building to be simple, just exactly like it is today. And we negated and talked against having decorations.
Well, it's perfect the way it is today. And you involved every little detail. You talk
Yes.
about the decorations in the building and whatever. So looking back, I mean, I still can't believe you're 100 years old. Wow, what a role model. And you're so vital and you're so engaged in life. So looking back 100 years now, what's most important to you today? What's most important to you today in your life?
Nothing is more important than my children and my family. I have a wonderful family. But the Temple Bethel has been a very outstanding part of my life. And I have thought about it daily for a great many years, or worked with other people who were thinking about it and developing things and discussing how we could make it better. And so I have to put that up very high on my list.
Right. Okay. Because I was going to ask, also for your accomplishment in your life, the accomplishment, what stands out for you aside from family. We mentioned 14 grandchildren, 6 children, 4 grandchildren, 4 children, a wonderful marriage with Herman Herst for all those years. So of all your accomplishments, what stands out?
At age 100, and all the parties that we've had to celebrate it, I have to explain something. My 2 children wanted me to make a big party and invite all the family. But I thought about it and I said, a big party is a flash. Nobody benefits anything from it. Why don't we invite everybody and let them come when they can come? My son lives in London. My grandchildren 2 of them live in Switzerland. They're Vermont. I said it's impossible for them all to give and come at one time. So that's what we have been doing. For the 100 years birthday, the first visitors I've had were from I was going to say Minnesota, but that's not correct. From California, Arizona, families, husband and wife, and we had a smaller dinner. There were 5 or 6 of us. And another group came, and another group came. There was one that included Minnesota. That's why I thought of it first. But we didn't make one big party. Now, they're still coming. So I have been going out to dinners. That's the family. I'm in April, I'm expecting my son and his children and grandchildren are coming.
Yeah.
So I have to keep, that has always, well, I devote myself to both my family and my temple.
Right. Well,
what else can I say?
Well, great. Well, and they're both ongoing. I mean, a 100th birthday, you shouldn't celebrate it just in one day. You're celebrating. I almost feel like we're celebrating your 100th
Yes.
birthday with you as well. And, you know, when we talk about accomplishments, I think one of my accomplishments is the pleasure of getting to know 100-year-old young Ida Herst. You are such an amazing woman.
And things I haven't told you.
Like what?
When I graduated Columbia University College of Pharmacy, to go just to the drugstore and fill prescriptions wasn't enough for me. And my sister came along too. And if she was going to do it, I have been interested in doing things like a female.
Like when you say it wasn't enough, what did you need? What did you want?
I started a company, Femme Products Company. I never told you that because it just didn't come up.
So what?
Femme Products.
Tell us about it.
You see, Femme Products was contraception.
You were way before your time.
And I only dealt with doctors because they knew from very, very little at that point. My Femme Products Company, I had a very beautiful line and literature. I had gotten that in my pharmacy school, plus other schools. I had to bring it in now because that was a big part of my life too. My husband wasn't involved in this. That was my doing. And I wrote literature. All this is available now. But I'm talking about 1950s. And I went to doctor's offices, but unfortunately, I became ill. I had something, tuberculosis, that was rampant in New York at that period. And I was in the hospital for a year.
Wow.
The House of Rest in but when I came out, I sold it to sold the business to. It was a very lovely packaging and very nice everything, and literature to Reed and Conrick, a big company in New Jersey who dealt only with doctors.
Amazing.
I never told you that because it just didn't come up.
Well,
so you're asking me now,
yeah,
what's the most important thing in my life?
Right.
The things I feel strongly about and that I can devote myself to. I have to say my family because my son is a doctor of a PhD. My daughter, who is an algae power business, they've all developed very, very well. And now my grandchildren are doing extremely well. So my family, I have to keep up. I have to keep on a high level because I'm the oldest. My two sisters passed away some years ago, so I'm the oldest. And because I knew my father, that influenced me tremendously all my life.
Well, you know, we all need role models, but I will tell you, you are such a great role model, not just for your family, for the Jewish community, not just the Jewish community, for everybody, you know, here in Boca Raton, who have had the privilege of meeting you and your husband, Herman Herst, who is an amazing, world-renowned stamp collector and letter collector. I mean, you are just an inspiration, and there's so much about you, and there's so much more.
I've enjoyed living. I've enjoyed every day of it. I've had illnesses. I've had everything. But I know that was my father's influence. He was a very unusual man.
Well, you were so lucky. You brought him up at the beginning, at the end of the show, to have had that role model, but you still had to do it. There are a lot of very influential, very successful people out there whose children don't accomplish what you have. So it is such a privilege for me.
I'm very pleased that I accomplished the things that I really wanted.
Right, good. And I've accomplished what I wanted because I got to meet you and to interview you for the Boca Raton Historical
Society.
Society.
It's very nice of you and the Boca Raton Historical Society that have seen a Jewish community develop and become prominent and are trying to do good in the world.
And we are doing good in the world. And I thank you so much, Ida Herst, for
thank you very much
being here with us and sharing with us.
You made me think about all these things that I don't really think about all the time.
Well,
I know what pushes me.
What pushes you?
Important things that I see need to be done. But they're not important for other people.
Right, well, they're important to you, and and they're going to get done. And again, I thank you so much.
And my family, when I now see them at little dinners and not one great big party, I can talk with them. I see how they've lived and how they've accomplished, and their children are all getting high educations.
Well, again, look who they look up to. Anyway, Ida Herst, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Ida Herst. We are documenting, as I mentioned, the Jewish history of Boca Raton. You are such a fine example, and I thank you again for being here.
It's been lovely living in Boca Raton. Of course, we have the weather.
I agree to that. I agree to that.
Right.
Okay, and thank you so much again.
Thank you for this opportunity to explain all kinds of things to you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back again with another interesting person for the Boca Raton Historical Society's project of documenting